Welcome to the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. Now, here's your hosts, B. Cox and the crew.
Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. It's a perspective of the classics from a fresh point of view. We appreciate you for taking your time and lending your ears to our perspective. You could be anywhere listening to anything, but you're right here with us, so we thank you. With you today is yours truly, B. Cox, and with me I have in the place to be my boy J.O. joining us here with another edition of The Vault. I want to make sure we give a shout out there to all the fans stateside and worldwide for continuing to support the show. Guys, thank you for sticking with us as we continue in on our review of music from 20, 25, and 30 years ago. We want to thank you all for sticking through it with us, and of course we got changes coming on the horizon as well as hopefully a great end of the year, so continue staying with us with The Vault. Make sure that you're going to our website, vaultclassicpod.com. Once again, that's vaultclassicpod.com. You can go there and check out all our back episodes, the back catalog, check out the guests that we've had. Also, go to our merchandise store. It's fall is here, guys. In case you haven't noticed it, we know that it's chilly in a lot of the places where you are. Go ahead and get to the Vault store and check out the merchandise. We got hoodies, long sleeve tees, sweaters, tumblers, coffee mugs, all types of things that you need, beanies, hats, whatever it is you need to help you keep warm as fall soon transitions into winter. Make sure y'all go in there to go check it out. Once again, it is vaultclassicpod.com. Go there, check it out, get to all of our social media there as well. And of course, also see our Buy Me a Coffee page where you can support us monetarily with a small donation to make sure that the Vault stays open for many years to come. As we always say here on the Vault, our motto is hashtag open the Vault, hashtag nothing but the classics, the MBTC. And today, Jay, we continue on in the Odyssey that was 1998 and also the phenomenon that was September 29th, 1998. Last week, for those of y'all who heard, we did one album from that day. That was Jay-Z, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. Today is part 2 of that. And today, Jay, we are going to the third studio album of none other than OutKast, Aquemini, released on September 29th, 1998, recorded between 1996 and 98 at Bosstown Studios and Doppler Studios in Atlanta, Birth Writers Music Group in Nashville, with a runtime of 74 minutes and 47 seconds on LaFace and Arista Records. The producers on this, mostly OutKast and Mr. DJ, but also production offerings by Organized Noize, longtime collaborators and also leaders of the Dungeon family out of Atlanta. The singles from Aquemini, 3 singles. Skewed on the Barbecue, released August 1998. Rosa Parks, which is the one that we all remember, released later on that year. And then The Art of Storytelling, Part 1, which was released on May 25th, 1999, and tons of other notable tracks as well from this album. So, Aquemini, Jay, the second part of September 29th, 1998, that epic day that was a great release day in hip-hop history. And to sort of go into the leading into the release of this album, this was on the heels of ATLiens having come out in 1996. And as OutKast got further into their career, we know at this point in time, going into ATLiens, that Andre and Big Boy had sort of, I would say, sort of hit sort of like a road in the wood where they sort of went different paths. Andre, you know, at some point in time, stopped smoking weed, became a vegetarian, a vegan, got into that whole bohemian sort of lifestyle after he met Erykah Badu with the way how he dressed and expressed himself. Big Boy was sort of somewhat of the same kind of guy. You know, that they had both advanced past that. You know, they kind of had gotten away from the whole thing that made them just 2 cats from Atlanta, 2 dope boys in a Cadillac. They got to the whole futuristic thing with ATLiens. They kind of produced a lot of their own songs at the same time. And meanwhile, heading into all this sort of the things that have happened in between then, between ATLiens and Aquemini, Big Boy has his first child. Andre has his first child as well and was in a relationship with Erykah Badu. They go through a relationship, have their breakup, and are no longer together. So there's a lot of things that both of them went together during this time. Production-wise, they started experimenting into a lot of things themselves. Andre himself had started to look into a lot of different other music genres. He definitely took some inspiration from things from Motown and from jazz and funk, which they were already kind of looking at, and also things also from Stax Records as well. And they wanted to really express themselves and show really their true selves on this album, what they had evolved to beyond Southern Playalistic through ATLiens and now into the recording of Aquemini. And it was something that a lot of us were really looking forward to because like what the first 2 albums they dropped, this is what they came up with was incredible. what they got, which is coming up, man. So obviously we wanted to see what they had to offer, and what they had to offer was something that we were all anticipating for quite some time. So now we're going to go ahead and get into it.
First thoughts and reflections.
So, Jay, I'll start with you about Aquemini, 1998. This album, of course, that great release day of September 29th. Tell me, when you heard Aquemini for the first time, what you thought about it, and examining it in full now, 25 years later, what do you think about it now as it stands, more than 2 decades afterwards?
Right, yeah. So, like, and I got to go back a little bit before I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, that was, like, just a grand time as far as all these releases coming out. So this is back, you know what I'm saying, we would go to the source for, like, everything, and the mics actually meant something.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother topic, but...
Oh, yeah.
So I'm reading the joint, I see them reviewing OutKast joint, and I saw the joint had 5 mics. I'm thinking, like, hell no, ain't no way this joint is that good. Like, OutKast still... like... Because I think like maybe like last joint, maybe like 5 mics might have been like Illmatic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Well, I believe so. I could be mistaken on that, but like, nah, man, they ain't. Especially them being from like down south, man, ain't no way. Nah, they had like a guest judge or something like that. Like, I'm just thinking, nah,
Yeah.
they dope, but nah. But then fast forward a little bit, Thanksgiving '98, I'm down in Atlanta visiting family, and my cousin now, he's a big OutKast fan.
Yeah.
So, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just me and him hanging out, riding around there in Atlanta. He's playing the album, playing the drinks off of there. I'm sitting nodding my head. I'm like, okay, clearly I judged too harshly. This drink is, I smoked way too soon. I was definitely out of pocket. Admitted my fault. So, like, that was, like, just off the top, that was my impression of it. I hadn't bought it yet, you know what I'm saying? That was back, like, working, like, a little weekend job, you know what I'm saying? Like, that $200 check made you feel like you was damn, you know what I'm saying, like a millionaire.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that's like one bill, but another conversation for another day.
Exactly.
So anyway, bought the joint, listened to it, didn't skip one track. Listened to it recently, still didn't skip one track. Like, it's almost like might be a bit of a stretch for me, but like in terms of like that continuity of it, I'm putting it up there with the Chronic.
Wow.
Yeah, like
wow. That's big. Now that's big coming from you. Because I know what you feel about the Chronic, how you feel about it.
Yeah, I just came to that realization like recently, you know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
Especially, and then, yeah, man, then like knowing like the stuff I found out about late, like, okay, OutKast, like, you know what I'm saying? They was actually making their own beats for this joint, like, kind of like straight away a little way some Organized Noize, but like, it just made it that much more remarkable to me, you know what I'm saying? So like, during that time, how 92, 93 was a bunch of bangers coming out, bangers coming out. I'd have to say Aquemini is like a lion among lions in that regard. So I had to make that comparison.
Yeah, that is, man. That's big from you, man. Because I know how you feel about the Chronic, and I know that that's really, really big praise coming from you after hearing that joint. And you're right. When we saw that 5 mic rating in the source, I think that made all of us kind of sit up, like when you read it, right? Because when I first read that issue of the source and they said OutKast to Aquemini, and you saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mics, like, I think it's like, as you're looking at it, it's almost like I saw it and I was like, hold on, wait, is that a 5th mic that I see there? Like, so it's just like you kind of sit up and you're like, hold on, wait, oh my goodness, let me find out. And so at that point in time, you know, if the source gave it 5 mics, that made you pay attention, and that makes everybody in the game pay attention. So when we saw that, waiting for this album to come out to be like, if this source gave it 5 mics, this shit must be fire. It must be fire, right? And when you actually get to the album, and all these albums come out on September 29th, 1998, a lot of people went out to go get Jay, as I mentioned this in the episode I did about the release date. But then a lot of people were also in line to go get Aquemini as well. And I remember one of my boys, P, actually, who was with me at Bowie, he listened to it. And I just remember when he looked at me the next day and he told me, B, I was like, eyes wide open. I was like, so tell me, I said, is it better than Southern Playalistic? He said, dog, it's better. I was like, it's better? He said, it's better. He's like, it's better than 8 Aliens. He said, matter of fact, it's better than anything you possibly ever could imagine coming from them. And I'm like, nah, he overhyping this joint or something, dog. He got to be, right? I did what I did, and I actually went out and got a copy of this album and listened to it, right? I didn't even dub it at first. I just went and borrowed somebody's copy and said, yo, I'll get it back to you by the end of the week.
High-speed dubbing days.
Yeah. And I sat there and I listened to it, and as I listened to the album, I started understanding that all this stuff of what the source was saying, what people were saying, what he was saying was starting to come to fruition. And I was just like, man, look at where these guys have come from, starting with Southern Playalistic. And remember, Southern Playalistic got 4.5 mics in the source. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say that AT Aliens also got 4.5 mics as well. And Big Boy had something to say about it on, I think on this album, the fact that they should have gotten 5 mics for that first album, which they should have, I believe.
Yeah.
And then they come out with this, and the sound, first of all, is the one thing that I remembered, right? I mean, rapping wise, you're going to get from Dre and Big Boy whatever it is you're going to get from them. We know this. And they proved that through the first 2 albums. Production wise, and them taking a lot of the production into their own hands. And it being them producing the album alongside, eventually, which would be the third member of Earth Tone 3, Mr. DJ, also producing a couple of tracks on here as well. But then you also had the influence of Organized Noize on here. They produced tracks on here, some of the most memorable tracks on here as well. And then they had the Dungeon family so immersed in this, having Cool Breeze, having Witchdoctor, shout out to you. Those of y'all who were real hip hop heads and knew was in the Dungeon family, y'all know about Witchdoctor. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Having Goodie Mob on there, all 4 of the members, even having Erykah Badu involved in the album. And then for good measure, us getting our really first taste of Big Rube on Liberation. It felt like everything that you had in regards to this. It was funky, it was soulful, but it was also experimental as well. And what you really got when it came to the lyrics on this, you got really the dichotomy between Dre and Big Boy, right? The differences between themselves, the lyrics and the style that you had with Big Boy, and then also the lyrics and the style reflection that you had of Andre. It really was what made them great. The fact that their styles were so different but complemented each other so well, right? You really started to see the potential of what OutKast had and what everybody said about them from the beginning. I don't know if you saw the Art of Organized Noize documentary, Jay, but it felt like everything they were talking about them in the beginning, that this was all of that coming together as far as all the stuff they said, what they were capable of as a group, that their legacy was going to be hinging on this album, and they delivered in every single way. Now, you mentioned you listened to this joint and you didn't skip a track. When I listened to it as well, I didn't skip any track either. Also, despite what a lot of people will say, I didn't really skip any track afterwards as well, despite one track, which we'll get into, which everybody seems to rail on about on this album, which I kind of think is a little overblown, to be quite honest. I was blown away. And now, 25 years afterwards, listening to this album, it is something that I still believe is a high watermark that they attempted to reach afterwards, and that became the standard. And it's a good standard because it's one that I think many hip-hop groups have not reached, and I would have to say this is a high watermark for a hip-hop group that no other hip-hop group has reached other than possibly NWA, possibly A Tribe Called Quest, and possibly De La Soul. And that's how I feel about it. It's up there with those type of releases from those groups have had there. And from them to be on the Source stage 4 years before this, or 3 years before this, stating that the South had something to say. And ironically enough, on the last track on here, you got that excerpt on there talking about that the South had something to say. And at this point in time, if you weren't listening, you were deaf. So it was crazy, man. And this album really created, I would say, even the start of that explosion where Southern hip hop wasn't just one type of way from one type of place. It could be so complex, have depth, and then also have fun to it as well. So just an amazing piece of work. And it's something that still, even 25 years afterwards, when I listen to it, I'm still amazed at the musicianship. I mean, a lot of live instrumentation in this, just like what Organized Noize is, and also the thought and the care that's being put into the composition of some of this music. It's stuff, again, as they said on the documentary, things that you didn't necessarily get from hip-hop music all the time, and that's really what I appreciated.
Highlights and lowlights.
So we'll get into it, Jay. Your highlights and lowlights here on Aquemini, what are they?
Man, where do I even start? Of course, like the singles. I always say the singles are good highlights of Rosa Parks, Art of Storytelling, Scooter and the Barbie. But apart from that, this really like set the mood. I was listening to it now when I was in Atlanta visiting family. Like the title track Aquemini, like, and then to find out they made the beat on that joint, and the way at that 3-minute mark, how they came back in after that, and you know, you were talking about. So that joint, like, it just puts you in a whole other state. But
yeah.
I don't want to digress, but like, let me see what else. West Savannah, you know what I'm saying, like, which is Big Boy just on there doing his thing.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, that was supposed to be on Southern Playalistic, from what I was told.
Supposed to be on Southern Playalistic, exactly.
And I can see how it would fit, but I'm glad they put it out on this.
Yes, me too.
And I think about Spodiote, Dopalicious, like Nah, man, it made me, again, it's making me think about, because again, I guess I was at an advantage listening to this being down in Atlanta at the time.
Oh yeah.
So I'm up there listening to the joint. I'm like, I turn to my cousin, we riding around, like, is he saying damn James? Like, he said, yep. Like, what the fuck? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then the whole, like, you know what I'm saying, just them talking over that joint and just telling those stories, just being just entertaining as far as like spitting bars. About what can't you say about liberation? Like,
Whew, my gosh. Yeah.
Like, it's like almost like a euphoric effect just listening to that joint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, especially with, I mean, maybe, I'm saying I'm out there for this, but just like CeeLo's part when he comes in.
Whew, my gosh, man. Every
It's
time.
like a teardrop. It was just
Every
that
time, bruh.
You know what I'm saying? And then how the joint came in after that, to shake that load off like that.
Yeah.
Oh, Return to the G. I don't know how I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Like, I actually heard that on a mixtape first before I heard like Aquemini. Was it Who Kid? I forgot who it was, but like it was just before that joint came out. But like those are some my highlights.
Yeah. Okay. No low lights for you on this.
I don't think I have any.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I have any.
Indeed, man. Well, my highlights. The singles obviously are great. Rosa Parks was a track that I think let us know we were in for a little bit of a different experience on this album. Skewed on the Barbecue, still one of my favorite beats from Organized Noize, showing that they were able to go production-wise in a little bit of a different direction. And then adding Raekwon to that joint, man, come on. I mean, it's like to have OutKast and Raekwon together, that was a bonus, right? I mean,
I see that coming, by the way.
Yeah, nobody could see it coming. The artist storytelling was great. Both of the stories they told of, then the perspectives that they had from it, including Dre's verse about Sasha. I mean, it just kind of tells you, man. It just reminds you as far as like the things that can go wrong. And I love the follow up with this artist storytelling part too. Great tracks produced by Mr. DJ. But then when you get into the album tracks, Turn to the Gangster is a great way to start this album off. I thought it was a great message from Andre to start off, talking about the whole thing with peace, and you know, it was just great. It was artfully done. That was also another great beat produced by Organized Noize. West Savannah, the fact that this was a track that came from Southern Playalistic and they could still put it on this album, it could still fit for this album, was just awesome, right? This is a track that was recorded 4 years ago, probably even longer than that if you think about when.
93.
Yeah, it was, and this was a young big boy on there spitting, and it fit on this because it goes into his roots, where he's from, West Savannah. You know, it's like a lot of people don't really get into that part, is that, you know, Big Boy is not originally from Atlanta. He ended up moving to Atlanta because he was getting in trouble, and his auntie wanted to move with his auntie up there to Atlanta. But this is a part of him, you getting into a little bit of his background as well. But then when you start to get into my favorite tracks on the album, as you mentioned with Aquemini, dog. Aquemini is a title track, and a track that to me captures all the sensibilities and everything that's right with the way how you want a deep album cut to be. A deep album cut that when you think about it, it's almost a track that you even think about more than some of the other singles on the album, right? I mean, everybody thinks about that track because of everything that it carries. I mean, even the daggone hook, even the sun goes down, heroes eventually die, horoscopes often lie, and sometimes why. Nothing is for show, nothing is for certain, nothing lasts forever, but until they close the curtain. It's him and I, Aquemini. I mean, that hook says so much in just so many words, right? It's perfect for this album. And then for all three of those verses to get in there and to do their thing, Big Boy leads it off and gives you this verse that paints this picture of everything it is that he is. He talks about some, you know, riding around Atlanta, what he out in here ready to do. Talks about, you know, being able to make it through these hard times and all that stuff. And he's like, you know, hey, listen, this is how I'm riding. Then you get into Dre's verse, in the second verse. Talks about stuff in the hood. Talks about all the things that you see, you know, the beauty parlors, the baby bottles, all this stuff like that. Talking about the candy lady, what the candy lady's giving these poor babies and everything. And really, it's also more so about painting more of a grim picture of more so than what Dre was talking about. We talk about that dichotomy, the differences, right? The duality of this group. And then you get the little break in the song, and then it comes in after that break. Bam, Big Boy comes in with his verse, them 8 bars, and does his thing. And then Dre follows that up with possibly, to me, some of the probably the best 8 bars on this album. Probably the best 8 bars on this album. And that's how this track ends, right? And it leaves you sitting there like, wow, this is why this album was made. This track is the reason why this album was made. Literally leaves you sitting there wanting more. Like, this is the fact that you get OutKast at their absolute best. That shows you the best of Big Boy, and the best of Andre. And yes, it was a track that they produced. Spodioti Dopalicious. Man, I don't know if you agree with me on this here, Jay, but every time I hear this track, I always feel like I should be smoking. I mean,
I agree 100%
it's
on that.
just, if you want to talk about a smoking mixtape, this is a song that you put on your smoking mixtape and let it ride. And then for it to be a song that was so well produced, so well put together, and they not even rhyming on this joint. The only thing they're doing is talking. That's it. And it's ghetto poetry, to be quite honest. To be able to hear story that Dre talks about them being out in Niggerville, USA, via Atlanta, Georgia. You know? And how the way you would want things to be versus how the way they actually are. And then for Big Boy to talk about getting caught up in that trap, being with a baby mama, and having to provide for that family, and the traps that comes with the fact that if you can't provide because of all the different things that you have going on in your life, that you can't separate what's there versus what's in reality, and then how you end up in a trap. And then like that shit was a track that had all of us hypnotized for literally every 7 minutes and 7 seconds of that song. And then not even to mention Sleepy Brown in the beginning of the joint, literally doing his best impression of Curtis Mayfield. It was a track that literally you could take that and put it in the 1970s and it would feel the same exact way.
Never lied, man.
I love that joint.
I didn't even think about it that way, but that's true. That's 100% true.
You could, I mean, literally, man, every time I hear this joint, I feel like I should be smoking. And then into Liberation. Liberation is a track that I can't even say it's just a good song. It's a spiritual experience when you listen to it, bruh. Every part of it is a spiritual experience. No rapping on this joint. And you have everybody on here singing, right? Andre and Big Boy, Erykah Badu and CeeLo. You got Joy in there. Erna Crenshaw. So all these people are singing on this track, and it just gives you this feeling. And just the delivering by CeeLo, by Erykah Badu, and then eventually it ended up with Big Rube spitting his famous poetry at the end of it. I mean, it does feel like a spiritual experience. The thing that really gave me my feeling of how important this track was is that, I don't know if you've seen the movie Malcolm and Marie, but at the end of Malcolm and Marie with John David Washington and Zendaya, at the end of it, as the two characters are basically reuniting at the end of the movie to go through the night they just went through, they play Liberation to close out the movie. And it was a perfect song to describe the sort of experience that what those two had been through. It was literally a soul-searching spiritual experience. That's something that most people can't even explain. And I know I may be oversizing it, but that's just the way how I felt about it. And other tracks on here. To have Chunky Fire to close out the album with the excerpt from the Source Awards. Y'all Scared with Timo, Big Gip, and Cujo. Always good to see the Dungeon family get together and do things. With Slump with Cool Breeze, including him in on it as well. Now, I do want to get into the one low light that many people will talk about for years. And I've seen it written and I've seen people on social media talk about it. Mamacita, right?
Oh, wow.
So there are people who say that Mamacita is the worst track on the album. And the one place I read, it said it's probably the worst track in OutKast's catalog, right? And I'm sitting there like, I think that Mamacita gets way too bad of a rap, right? Other than the hook, what really other complaints do you have about it? And now, I've seen other people say that, you know, that Dre's verse was homophobic, you know, in a sense, you know, because he was talking about the fact that you be with her homegirl and her homegirl trying to see what's up with her when her homegirl's a lesbian. And and what he said to do to her if she tried that. So I can understand that. But to me, I think Mamacita gets a little bit of a bad rap. I don't think it's really that bad of a song, to be quite honest.
Me neither.
You know? And so there's a lot of people who say, oh, Mamacita is a terrible song. It's a terrible song. And like, yo, I don't think it's horrible. I've heard other songs and other albums of this quality that have had bad songs, and it's not nearly as bad as some of them. Hey, I don't have a problem with Mamacita, to be quite honest. It's not enough for me to drag this album down at all whatsoever, to be quite honest. Is it the worst song on here? Maybe it's in contention, but I can't say for certain that it is or isn't. So, again, I can know that some of y'all will have problems with the hook, but that's cool. I get it, and I understand that as well. But all in all, the production on here, the live instrumentation, I mean, you look at the musicians who played on this. I mean, most of the collaborators, instrumentation-wise, that are usually there, the Marcus Jeffersons, Preston Crumps, the Omar Phillips, Craig Loves, Mr. DJ, of course, Sleepy Brown and George Clinton on vocals. You also then get the South Central Chamber Orchestra, Chance Parksman, all these different like collaborators that Organized Noize and Dungeon Families worked with for a while just came together to make this just an exquisitely produced album, if I should say so. So yeah, props to everybody involved all together.
Notable quotables.
Notable quotables, Jay. So what is your notable quotable on this album?
I was actually gonna say on y'all scared, excuse me, like Andre's verse.
Okay, yeah.
Yo, paragraph intent. I make intense sense. Niggas on that Gil Scott dope. Hint, hint. At age 21 and wants to know where the time went. Hey, what's the haps? We see your time elapse. Have you ever thought of the meaning of the word trap? Bad boot on your back. But what's that is that crack was introduced to Hispanic communities and blacks, but then it spread to white communities and get everyone's undivided attention because your daughter's on it and you can't hide it. Maybe your son tried it. Rehab too crowded. You scared, she scared, they scared. I said they scared to talk about it. Like,
yeah.
So much in so little time, he said with that drink.
Yeah.
I mean, so many quotables on here. Like,
yeah. It is a lot. And that was one of them. That's actually one that I had down as my possible ones as well because of what he was saying and what he was talking about. It's yeah, definitely. My notable quotable comes from Aquemini, and it comes from the whole third verse. And you know, starting up when you come in, that joint just hits back, and Big Boy just comes in. The name is Big Boy, Daddy Fat Sacks, that nigga that like them Cadillacs. I stayed down with the streets because the streets is where my folks is at. Better know that we pro-black, boy, we getting confessional. We missed a lot of church, so our music is our confessional. Get off the testicles and nut sacks. You bust around and we bust back. Get back to the real niggas. We trying to out here spit facts. You hear that? Can't come near that. Maybe you need to quit because the Aquemini and Aquarius and the Gemini running shit like this. And Drake comes in. My mind warps and bands, floats the wind, count to 10, meet the twin, Andre Bands, coming to the lion's den. Original skin, many men comprehend. Now I extend myself to you don't have to tell a friend. Sin all depends on what you believe in. Faith is what you make it. That's the hardest shit since MC ran. Aliens can blend right on in with your kin. Look again, cause I swear I spot one every now and then. It's happening again. Wish that I could tell you when. Andre, this is Andre. Y'all just gonna have to make amends. Like, biggest thing that I love about this verse between the two of them, right? Big Boy says, I stay down with these streets because these streets is where my folks is at. But I know that some say we pro-black, but we professional. We missed a lot of church. So this music is our confessional. I mean, it says, get off the nesticles and the nut sacks. You bust around and we bust back. You get back for real because these niggas out here trying to spit facts. I mean, it's just, it's great. And then with Andre, when he comes in, the bars that I really loved in particular when he says it's that sin all depends on what you believe in and faith is what you make it. That's the hardest shit since MC ran. Then he go and throws a warning out there. Alien can blend right on when with your kin. Look again, cause I swear I spot one every now and then. I mean, when you start to peel back the layers of some of this shit, dog, it's just like, wow, these niggas really was ahead of their time, dog. And creatively, the type of shit that they rolled out there was just like, this is just really some next level type shit, dog. Seriously. Lots of quotables on this joint, but man, between your joint and the joint that I just named right there, I mean, just golden. Absolutely golden.
Final verdict.
So, Jay, here we are with your final verdict. Is this a classic album, essential album, dope, just good, okay, or something worse than that?
Man, drum roll, this is a classic album, and it's definitely essential along with being dope. I put it like that, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a classic.
I can't say how else to put it.
Yeah, it's a classic and essential. To me, it's right up there when you talk about best albums from the South. It's like probably right there in the top 3 of the conversation. It definitely is. It is a culmination of everything that we expected from OutKast. And it's a high watermark that I would say that I don't think a lot of people have even been able to touch yet, even OutKast themselves. And it's like when you get something like this, you have to understand that artistically, when you're a rapper, producer, whatever, this is the sort of excellence you're hoping to reach. And for Jay and I, who both kind of dabble in production, been involved with hip hop, tried things throughout the time, this is the type of things that we would hope at some point in time you wish to reach, right? And for those of us, it's aspirational for them to come out and actually do it, and then for it to sit as long as it has, and for it to continue to improve as it ages, just goes and shows you, man, it's all the hallmarks of a classic. And OutKast, their legacy was secured by this album, and they could have done this and not done another one, and their legacy would have been still the same to me. It really would have been. For you to start your career out with 3 straight classics, Yeah, not many artists at all, solo or group, could say that. They started their career with 3 straight classics. OutKast, Aquemini, 25 years old this year. Make sure y'all go check it out. Hit us up on social media. Also hit us up on our platforms. We'll have a question out there. What is your favorite track from Aquemini? Your favorite moments as well. And listening to it back then and also now. Do you feel the same way about it now that you did back then? Has it improved or has it gotten worse? Hit us up on social media. Let's talk a little bit about it. We love to continue the conversation. And that is going to wrap up yet another edition of The Vault. Please make sure you are visiting us at vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com. There you can learn more about the show, check out our past episodes, join our mailing list, leave a review, or if so inclined, you can leave us a voice note. Click the blue microphone in the bottom right-hand corner to leave us a voice note to let us know what you think about the show, or to just show us some love. To support the show, click the coffee cup shaded in yellow in the bottom left-hand corner to access our Buy Me a Coffee page. On Buy Me a Coffee, you can give a small monetary donation to support the show to ensure that we can keep the vault open for many years to come. You can also visit us on social media at Vault Classic Pod on IG, Twitter, and on TikTok. Also hit us on YouTube and our Facebook page. Like and follow us on social media, subscribe to the pod and the YouTube channel. We do it here all for you. We appreciate the support, and if you have a friend, tell a friend, and make sure that that friend tells a friend. Always remember to keep your headphones on and your music loud, but not too loud. And as we close, we like to remind everyone to dream big, because dreams are the basis for creation. Always create, motivate, and elevate, because you were never destined or created to stay stationary or ordinary in this life. And on that note, we say peace.
Thank you for listening and coming into The Vault. Please subscribe and visit us at vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com.